It was many years ago. There was a school teacher named Mrs. Thompson. On the first day of school, she stood in front of her fifth grade class. She told a lie, as most teachers do. She looked at the children and said she loved them all equally, but that was impossible, because there was a little boy sitting in the front row. His name was Teddy Stoddard. Mrs. Thompson had seen Teddy the previous year and noticed that he did not play well with the other children. His clothes were always dirty. Teddy was a bit of a nuisance. It got so bad that Mrs. Thompson enjoyed finding faults in his papers, putting a big red cross and writing a big fail. In school, Mrs. Thompson had to look at every student's past records, but she put Teddy's file last. When she finally opened Teddy's file, she was shocked. Teddy's first grade teacher had written it. Teddy is a bridal child, always ready to laugh, does his work neatly, and always displays good manners. It is a pleasure to be with him. The second grade teacher wrote, Teddy is an excellent student. He is well liked by all, but is upset because his mother is ill, and his home environment is a little difficult. The third grade teacher wrote, his mother's death has affected him badly. He tries his best, but his father does not take much interest in him. If something is not done, his home environment will affect him very badly. The fourth grade teacher wrote, Daddy is now very reserved but does not show much interest in school. He does not have many friends and sometimes falls asleep in class. Seeing all this, Mrs. Thompson felt ashamed of herself. She felt even worse when her students gave her Christmas gifts, which were wrapped in beautiful ribbons and colorful papers. But Teddy's gift was wrapped in a brown paper which was bought from the grocery store. Mrs. Thompson opened Teddy's gift in front of everyone. Inside was an old rhinestone bracelet, in which some stones were missing, and a perfume bottle, which was a little full. The children started laughing, but Mrs. Thompson quickly spoke. How beautiful is the bracelet, and applied the perfume on her hand. That day after school, she stayed back and said just this much, Mrs. Thompson, today, you smell exactly like my mother. When the children left, Mrs. Thompson kept crying for 1 hour. After that day, she focused more on teaching the children than teaching. Mrs. Thompson paid special attention to Teddy. The more she encouraged him, the faster Teddy responded. By the end of the year, Teddy had become the most intelligent student in the class. After 1 year, Mrs. Thompson found a note from Teddy under her door in which it was written that she is the best teacher of his life till date. 6 years passed, and he received another letter, in which Teddy had written that he had completed his high school in the top 3, and Mrs. Thompson is still his favorite teacher. Then, after 4 years, another letter came. Teddy was about to graduate from college. He was saying that you are still my best teacher. 4 more years passed, and another letter came. This time, Daddy told that he had studied further after college, and now he had become a doctor. At the end of the letter, it was written, Theodore F. Stoddard, M.D. Then another letter came in which Teddy told that he was going to get married, and he asked Mrs. Thompson if she would sit in his mother's place in his wedding. Mrs. Thompson agreed, and that day she wore the same bracelet in which some rhinestones were missing, and the same perfume which reminded Teddy of his mother. Teddy hugged Mrs. Thompson and whispered in her ear, Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. You made me feel special and told me that I can also do something in life. Mrs. Thompson's eyes filled with tears. She said to Teddy, No, Teddy, you are completely mistaken. You have taught me that I can do something good. Before meeting you, I did not know how to teach children.